For me personally, I'm a big procrastinator, right? So one of the things that kills me when I'm trying to be productive is distractions. I actively seek out distractions in my life. And so I try to limit them as much as I can and limit my accessibility to distractions and things that are going to pull me away from being productive. But one of my favorite things that does that for me is the do not disturb function on my iPhone, right? So I'm able to put on the do not disturb, and then anytime I get texts or calls or whatever, they go straight to voicemail, or they don't make a noise, it doesn't vibrate, and I don't get distracted because I've noticed that whether I'm going to read, if I'm checking emails, if I'm doing anything remotely productive, especially if I'm writing or doing something like that, if I get that text, if I feel the buzz on my watch and I check it and I pick up my phone, boom, I just lost 15 minutes because I'm gonna be on Instagram and checking Facebook. Well, I gotta check here. Maybe I should just see what happened here. And scrolling down, through all these different things, and it's just I get wrecked by it. And the great thing about Do Not Disturb though is that they have a function on there where you can add people to your favorites and they'll actually still go through, right? Because you know that there's still sometimes you got to be accessible. Things might be an emergency. And so there's a couple different options that you have with Do Not Disturb, but you're able to prioritize and give people access to you who you think are important enough that you want their call to go through, whether they call you at 3 a.m or they call you in the middle of the afternoon. But there's people who get that special access. And one thing that I've realized in my life and thinking about, as I've grown in my faith life and my spiritual journey is, do I give God that access into my life? Do I give God the opportunity to interrupt me? Does Jesus know that he has permission to access my heart and to grab my attention at any point in the day? And that comes in so many forms, right? Whether it's just acknowledging the homeless person on the side of the street, or it's spending some extra moments in prayer, or, whatever it might be, something that grabs your attention. It's really important to reflect on that. Does God have my permission to interrupt my day and to like interject himself into my life? And I've seen myself in so many times where I've neglected to allow that to happen, right? I have not allowed God the permission to come into my life. And sometimes where I've done that really well. And so, one thing that I think about, just practically speaking, is why could that possibly be? Why is it that God sometimes is allowed to interrupt my life and sometimes he's not? And the thing that's most important to kind of evaluate when thinking about who gets the permission or the right to kind of interrupt my day or my life is, how important is that person to me? How important is what they might have to say? So of course, like, my mom's going to be on the list and some of my closer friends or a boss from work, but I'm allowing them, or any type of notification, all these different things to interrupt and interject into my day. And really take a lot of attention and my time and my focus. But a lot of times, if somebody calls us to, hey, do you want to go to church with me? Hey, do you want to come pray? Hey, do you want to, do anything that might be out of what we had scheduled or planned? I've asked friends to do that with me a lot of times, and the response is, oh, I have to go grocery shopping, or we have to go do this or that. And there's always like some light excuse. And how many times do we neglect or put off different things for other opportunities? But for even church on Sunday, sometimes we don't prioritize it enough to make it important. And I think it's really critical to think about, how important is God to us? How important is our relationship with Jesus to us? And that's objectively measured by how much we prioritize him, right? That's how we show how important somebody else is to us, is I prioritize spending time with them. So that's how I show my family or somebody you're dating or a friend, right, that they matter to you. That's how your boss knows that they matter to you, is because they have the ability to contact you. They have the ability to have that open communication with you. You prioritize them. You have pictures of them in your house. You spend time trying to get them gifts and do things that would make them happy, and serve them when you can, and make them know that they are special to you. And how have you been actively doing that in your relationship with God? Have you been spending that time with the Lord so that he can have that communication and that access into your heart, into your mind, so he can start to develop you into the person that he needs you to become, ultimately to better serve his kingdom here on earth, and to bring people with you to heaven, right? And to get you in a place that you'll be a saint here in this life as well. So many times I've chosen in my life to say, no, God, you're going to have to wait. All these different things can come and steal my time, but you, God, like, you're going to have to wait. And I always hit the snooze button, right? Oh, I should grab my Bible right now and just study some scripture. I have 15 minutes. Like, let me say a quick prayer. Oh, no, it's better to wait until I have 30 minutes later. And then it just never happens. And we have to stop that. We have to stop this, I'll get to it later. And that's how a lot of people, you see that develop. It starts in those small moments, right? And these small moments compound over time to where it's at first, oh, I'll wait to pray until later and I'm delaying my prayer time, till eventually people will literally approach their whole spiritual life and say, oh, like the whole God thing, like I'll figure that out once I get married. I'll get back to church once I have a family. I'll get back when I'm older is when I'll start coming back to church, or I'll start working on my relationship with God. And it's sad that how often that never happens. In a similar way to how a lot of times when I delay my prayer and say, no, I'll do it later, it never happens. A lot of people get to the end, the final hour of their life, and look back and say, oh man, all these things I said I was going to do later, I never did. So there's value in protecting your mind. There's value in protecting your time and keeping your phone on do not disturb so that you can avoid distractions in your life. But it's important to remember that God is not a distraction. Spending time with God is your ultimate purpose. It's what you were created to do. You were created to know, love, and serve him. So every moment, every bit of energy, every bit of your time and your mind and your soul that you place before him, that you give over to him, is never wasted. You can never waste time by spending time with God. That is the ultimate purpose. That is why we should do everything else in our lives, right? Like everything else should be so we ultimately can serve him, love him, and know him. And spending time with him it's going to look so differently at different stages of our lives and in different ways that we can love and serve God through serving our neighbor. But understand that is never a distraction, right? God is never going to be distracting you, because if your ultimate purpose and your point of existence is to know, love, and serve God, then anytime that God's calling you to know, love, and serve him can't be a distraction. It can't be taking you away from your purpose. That doesn't mean that all day long we're supposed to spend time in prayer and never supposed to go do stuff, but everything that we do should be a prayer. Everything we do should be lifting our hearts and our minds and our souls to God and giving him the greater glory and doing everything with all of our hearts so that he can be glorified through what we do. And we have to still be plugging in and make sure we're making that time to spend time in conversation. And just like we develop any other human relationship, that's how we develop that relationship with Jesus too, is we make him know that he's important to us by making those decisions that prioritize him, spending that time with him, giving him the access to communicate with us whenever he feels necessary, because he's always yearning to spend time with us. One of my favorite quotes, Matthew Kelly says that God delights in spending time with us. And that's so true. God delights in spending time with you. So make sure that you make some time for God today and be willing to sacrifice other things in your life so that your relationship with God can truly flourish.